conference room for a briefing to discuss tonight's agenda. This agenda has been amended twice since its original issue. One, to add item 4K under the consent agenda, which as of 5 o'clock meeting is now moved under general business, and to add an executive session under item 9A with no action anticipated. At 5:30, we moved here to the first floor chambers to conduct the council meeting in person. And because we encourage community involvement, we invite the public to join us in person or private or participate via remote option through Zoom or view on BKAT. With that, I'll now go to the mayor's report. Welcome, Mayor Wheeler.
All right, good evening, council. Good to see you. Got a couple slides, some basic operations of the city. Want to share with you and starting right now. So on February 1st, 3 p.m., as the slide shows, we called crews in and apply salt brine to primary and secondary roads and in preparation for the freezing weather. You probably saw the results of that when our roads were relatively clear from the first into the week. Monday, as the slide says, at 3 a.m., crews were called in to apply the salt brine ahead of the snow that was predicted. So that's been ongoing. I just wanted to share this is folks that are allowing themselves to be on call on behalf of our city. Since Monday, the crews have been on 24-hour operations. Next slide. Okay, and this is just some interesting, facts that are probably could just be requested if anybody finds something up there that they want to learn more about. And it kind of gives you the magnitude of what we prepare for and what kind of duties that are performed. At the bottom, I found it interesting. The salt brine gallons applied to city streets since February 1st, 24,000 gallons. And so these are just some interesting, tidbits. But the salt used to make brine in tons, 20 tons, is total this winter to date is 40 tons. So that's how much has been produced with the work. And I want to close on this portion of it. The hours worked were 170 hours. So that's a whole lot of work. And I appreciate our folks stepping up to do that hard work in these tough conditions. All right, next slide. So, well 7A. A lot of folks, they sometimes see operations, but most of the time, something like this is out of the way. It's something our city does. For this one here, this is over on the in the Gorst area, in a part of the city that a lot of people aren't aware is in the city limits. So it's over by Anderson Hill. This new well will yield up to 400 gallons per minute and create a vital water supply for that area. Next slide. And that gives you, as I was mentioning earlier, the site location of well 7A. And these are just a couple other pictures. All right, next slide. That's probably close to wrapping up. That's wrapping up my report. So council, I'm going to share with you, it's an email that I've been sending out to folks, and it's brief. And I want to share, and this, I'll address you on this one. I'll say, Dear City Council, I understand people are feeling a lot of fear, confusion, and concern, so I want to clear up what I can as it relates to the city of Bremerton. Bremerton has never had a dedicated DEI staff position, but we have been working to get one. We were doing the recruitment for the position when the executive orders came out. The operation of essential services in Bremerton is dependent on the city receiving millions of dollars in federal funds each year. I paused recruitment for the unfilled position so we could get more information on whether having the position would impact Bremerton's ability to receive federal funds. I know pausing this recruitment is disappointing to some people. I have been advocating for the position for several years, and I am disappointed also. I hope we can move forward, and I am collaborating with our partners at the state and federal level to better understand the issues involved. My staff and I will be giving you updates on the issue, especially at the next City Council study session on February 12th. I am not, and I repeat, I am not bringing a specific measure or proposal to the City Council at this time. Take care, thank you, and I want to close with just a small quote. The way to deal with this mountain of orders is to face them one at a time, get on sound legal ground, and do the best thing for all the citizens of Bremerton. Right. Thank you, Council.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Now we'll go to the consent agenda. Ms. Hoover.
Thank you, President Younger. For approval on the consent agenda are the following items. A, claims and check register. Approval of the following checks and electronic fund transfers. 1, check numbers 409739 through 409980 and EFT numbers V42637 through V42820, and the grand total amount of $7,114,816.52. Regular payroll payout for pay period ending December 31st, 2024, in the amount of $47,151.65. 3, regular payroll for pay period ending January 15th, 2025, in the amount of $1,188,462.56. Again, that's $1,188,462.56. 4, regular payroll correction for pay period ending January 15th, 2025, in the amount of $3,848.27. 5, regular payroll payout for pay period ending January 15th, 2025, in the amount of $4,292.15. Retiree payroll for pay period ending January 31st, 2025, in the amount of $38,133.64. B, minutes of council meeting, January 15th, 2025. C, minutes of study session, January 22nd, 2025. D, approval for fire department to apply for FEMA assistance to firefighter grant. E, approval of the police department or approval for the police department to apply for Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. F, agreement with Schneider Water Services for Well 9 drilling project. G, contract modification number 6 with Parametrics Inc. for the engineering services during construction of the Kitsap Lake Park renovation project. H, contract modification number 3 for Parametrics for engineering services during construction for the Haddon Park renovation project. And let's see, I, amendment number 3 to claims administration agreement with Helmsman Management Services LLC, DBA Eberly Vivian Inc. And J, ordinance number 5507 to amend BMC chapter 2.09 relating to the Department of Financial Services. This concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. If any member of the public wishes to speak to any of the consent agenda items, we only ask that you state your name for the record and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Having said that, does any member of the public wish to comment on any of the consent agenda items?
Mike Simpson, I live in District 6. And one of the items on the agenda, on the consent agenda, is the concerns us because it's about our park. It's about Haddon Park. That's in District 6. It's a great little park. It deserves to be upgraded. It deserves to be modified and changed, so that those of us in the district, in the neighborhood that live close to there, within a 10-minute walk, can actually enjoy that park and make the best use of it. So I strongly encourage you to vote yes on the minutes that are on the consent agenda tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Lou Long, resident and participant in pushing for the park, Haddon Park. I'm curious as to what the modification to the contract was. I don't know what it was. Could anyone explain that? You're all
So
going to
the-
vote on it, so you all should know about it, right?
Absolutely. So we'll have someone from the administration since it was Parks Department. But it is in the packet as well.
In the, it breaks it down in the packet, and I didn't look at the packet, but
Okay.
could you briefly explain it? Just that one part?
I'll ask the administration to go ahead and explain it. It's not normal procedure for council members to break down. And that's really at their option. I don't think we have our Parks Director here tonight. Oh, yeah, we do. Go ahead. Mr. Barker, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Essentially, the two change orders are very consistent between both Kitsap Lake Park and Haddon Park. And it's for additional time for parametrics to be working on the project. We've made some modifications in the field. And so there's been additional engineering that's had to occur. And so that's what the change orders for, is to take those additional funds that we're going to need to pay out to parametrics into account. The funds are budgeted within the project already, so it's not a new funding request either. It's coming from contingency.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public? No? Dave, do we have anybody on Zoom for? No? All right, so seeing no further input from the public, I'll go to the council for a motion.
I'll make the motion, move to approve consent agenda as presented. And do we include as amended from upstairs at the briefing?
Second.
Okay, as presented.
So we have a motion and a second call for the question.
Councilmember Chamberlain,
Yes.
Fry,
Yes.
Coughlin,
Yes.
Robolowski,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Younger.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
next up is public recognition. As indicated on the agenda, the public recognition provides an opportunity for attendees to address the council on any issue that's not already on tonight's agenda. There'll be, there actually will be comments accepted via Zoom tonight. We had 7 people call within the 24-hour notification period. So unless prior arrangements were made through the city clerk by calling 360-473-5323 at least 24 hours prior to the meeting, that avenue is not available to you. So again, we have 7 people, and I will call on Dave to have them speak at the appropriate time. Again, we ask that you state your name for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. We'll have a timer, and I must enforce this fairly. So when you are at 3 minutes, there should be a 30-second warning, but in any case, when you're at 3 minutes, I'm sorry, but I got to cut you off. All right. So a timer system will be used so everyone's treated fairly. And then also for those people that are new to the city council experience and public recognition, please be advised that this is not an interactive opportunity with your council members. We're here to listen to you of what your concerns are. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open up for public recognition.
Buenas tardes, Council. My name is Martita May, the founder of Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center, founder of CARE, and other organizations. And I'm here tonight requesting for the city of Bremerton and do not participate with law enforcement, do not to participate with ICE. It is a lot of fear in our community because hearing people, we're talking about not just undocumented, but people who are documented and fear. So please do not participate with ICE and just protect the well-being of our families. This is causing a lot of mental health, and I kindly request, please do not participate with ICE unless there is a crime or something, but do not participate asking citizens questions that they're supposed not to be asking. So I thank you for your consideration, and we really want you to stop that. And if City of Bremerton and Police Department send a letter in Spanish to put it in the website saying that you are with our community, our immigrant community. America is about immigrants, founded by immigrants. So please, we request kindly for you to listen to our voices. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please. We'll take care of the queue and then we'll go on to the Zoom.
Good evening, Bremerton City Council members. My name is Promise Partner. I live in District 5. We are in a pivotal moment for our world, our nation, and our city. Our friends and loved ones, especially immigrant, queer, trans, Black, and brown, are threatened and suffering. When one is harmed, we are all harmed. Where do you stand? Community members gathered in this room and online, and many more who are unable to be here, are calling on you to hold your ground for what is both legal and moral. You have worked hard in your diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts over these years and are on a positive path forward. I am here to encourage you not to bow down to Trump. Do not terminate the city's DEI initiatives. Stay the course. What is your compass and what will be your legacy? Here now, as we face down fascism, we must choose courage over comfort every day. I also want to speak specifically to immigrant rights tonight. I wrote you a letter detailing what CARE, Kitsap Advocating for Immigrant Rights and Equality, and its partners and allies are asking you to do. In short, we ask that you reaffirm the city's commitment to being a welcoming place for all people, particularly immigrants, by ensuring that all city departments, especially the police, demonstrate through their policies, protocols, and practices their compliance with the Keep Washington Working Act, the Washington laws that limit collaboration with federal immigration enforcement. It is not theoretical or exaggeration when we say that they are coming to take away our family and friends. If they come for others, they will one day come for me, and they will come for you. We must do everything we can to protect our neighbors. I leave you with the words of Anne Braden. She is a white anti-racist organizer and an ancestor. They anchor me in truth and courage, and I offer them to you in hopes they will anchor you too. In every age, no matter how cruel the oppression by those in power, there have been those who struggle for a different world. You do have a choice. You don't have to be part of the world of the lynchers. You can join the other America. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I hate doing this, but I've got it. Adrian Wright, District 2. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Very simply, because a lot of pressure up here. I saw a video recently about Judge Flood in front of a judicial review board. And while I did not write down all the things that she was guilty of, it was really disturbing how much I'm not a lawyer, but negligence she gave to not just the municipal court, but to the city of Bremerton and the citizens of Bremerton. And as a working class person, sorry, I feel particularly in East Bremerton, poor working class people struggle, deal with a lot of crime, deal with a lot of domestic issues, deal with violent crime, deal with a lot of real estate transactions, a lot of things that I would imagine if there was any problem in their lives, they were dealing with a municipal court that probably dropped the ball for them. It hurts me because I have to interact or just witness a lot of harm coming to poor working class people, which I don't know the statistics, maybe you know better, are probably deal with on a larger basis than we realize. My hope is that you may look at that judicial review, consider threats against the city of Bremerton and its citizens, and be more resolute to lectures, legal challenges, lawsuits, and stand for the citizens of Bremerton. Stand up to people that might be shaky or supportive of our former municipal court judge, and send a message that we want the utmost performance out of the municipal court, particularly since our tax dollars are going towards that courtroom, that they bring back qualified, not just judges, but support staff, as well as a stable courtroom for both prosecution and defense, so that we can have a safer and better community. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Van Gelder. I'm a resident here in Bremerton. And I have had the privilege, excuse me, I've had the privilege of working with some of you on the Racial Equity Advisory Committee. And having done that, I have a lot of respect for the hard work that you do every day in representing the people of Bremerton. I'm here today because of an issue that I feel very deeply about, the question of the situation confronting our immigrant friends, neighbors, family members, business leaders. I'm asking that you create a very clear statement on behalf of the city of Bremerton, reaffirming what you did several years ago when you passed the resolution calling for an equitable and equitable city that recognizes everybody's rights regardless of their immigration status. I think it's an important moment to put that out loud and clear, an important moment when people are feeling scared, when they're wondering if it's okay to send their children to school, if it's okay to open their businesses, if they'll get picked up when they're in the shopping mall. It's a really important moment for us to stand together as a city and say, no, you're valued here. You're part of our community. You're our friends and neighbors. You're our business leaders. We want you to feel comfortable here and we want you to feel secure here. Luckily, you are backed up significantly by the state of Washington, the Keep Washington Working Act, which does in fact ask that all, it doesn't just ask, it requires that all law enforcement and social services and local jurisdictions, in fact, do their best to keep immigration status out of the questions around how someone is served by public services and how they're treated by law enforcement. Some people have blamed the violent crime on immigrants, but we know the research shows that actually immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate than non-immigrants. We also know that law enforcement tells us that that if people are frightened to go to law enforcement to report a crime, that actually makes our cities less safe. So there's very good reasons why law enforcement as well has a lot to gain by doing this well. Unless we're Native Americans, we're all descendants from immigrants, every single one of us. either immigrated ourselves or our parents or ancestors did. So let's assure that no families live in fear of separation. And to the best of our abilities, let's protect our residents from arbitrary detention and instead offer the welcome we would have wanted for our own ancestors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dave. I see we now have the clock up there. Not any particular comment to anyone, but I noticed we had some people were saying, when's the yellow light? So we're gonna have the clock up there now, so you all have an opportunity to see what the time is. The timer, you have the time. We're good. Hey, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Alistair James. I live in East Park, Bremerton. I'm a proud father and also a volunteer with Bremerton School District. And I'm here to ask my city council to voice their support and proactively advocate for our local immigrant community, regardless of immigration status. And most particularly, I'm interested in bringing to your minds the children of immigrants in our community. Before I go any further, I just want to share with you a very brief and short poem that I think you might find a little insightful given our recent weather conditions. Laughing Boy by Richard Wright. In the falling snow, a laughing boy holds out his palms until they are white. Every child in our local community and beyond deserve the opportunity to play free of fear, and especially so on a wonderful snow day like we've had here. We would not have the community we have without our immigrant neighbors. So please proactively support and advocate for them in your daily lives, because we're counting on you to help preserve the integrity and the authenticity of our local community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Hannah. I'm a resident of Bremerton. I'm here to echo the voices here tonight, and that as a neighbor, the fear and grief is palpable, with real families having real conversations that they never thought that they would have about their safety and their security. To be unaffected by the past few weeks speaks to one's privilege in the most harmful sense. Tonight, I'm calling on the council to stand up to fascism as it spreads with every executive order signed. One man with a fascination of his own signature should be no match to the 39 separate signatures needed for the US Constitution, or the inherent power that states have to independently retain their laws. And this tactic of flooding our systems with intentional fear shows that our federal government has declared psychological war on our systems in hopes that we lose our footing. I'm urging you all to maintain yours through community coordination, consultation with legal experts, and compassion for those directly impacted by the harm. I'm imploring the council to stand firm in your commitment to a safe community that values equity and inclusion. These times do not call for business as usual and require creative ways of holding the line on rights that have been available for generations to residents in this community. I understand budgets for projects are in question, but those are meaningless in the face of what could be lost in our Black and Brown communities, our immigrant communities, our Indigenous communities, our disabled, and our queer communities. I'm also imploring the council to be more proactive in responding to the threats made to our immigrant neighbors by our federal government. Tukwila, Mokoteo, and Paulsbo police departments have made statements, some more assuring than others, that there is no coordination between immigration agents and local law enforcement as per the state law, especially given the recent passing of the Lake and Riley Act. So I ask the council that any statement made should be timely and reflect an understanding of how homogenizing definitions of criminal and civil law when talking about undocumented immigration contributes to hateful and harmful discriminatory narratives. Please, to each of you, now is the time to step up, leverage your power you have to protect, assure, and defend the people in your community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Kyle Simons. I live in District 6, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the local immigrant community. I think we're all pretty aware of the danger that we're all in, but especially right now, the immigrant community, because of the executive orders that the current presidential administration is unleashing upon us seemingly every single day. You guys have the power to do something to affirm that you're not on their side. Not issuing a statement is tantamount to rolling over and ceding ground. And I don't think you need to do that. This community has a diverse, long-standing group of people who I think disagree with the current administration's goals very strongly. And you even have the law backing you up. As has been mentioned, the Keep Washington Working Act ensures that local police departments are not involved in the legal law enforcement regarding immigration and immigrant people. So I just ask that you make a statement sometime soon. It's probably not very hard for you guys. And it would do a lot, I think, to reduce people's fear and anxiety, because we're all kind of experiencing that a lot right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there we go. Naomi Levine, I'm echoing the same comments that folks are saying, that it's really important that we stand with our immigrant community and that we stand for DEI. And I want to offer some additional clarity on what I think that should look like. In addition to some of the really fantastic suggestions that have already been made, I was disheartened to find out that not only was I surprised that we were backing down on DEI in Bremerton, but that some folks on city council were surprised when they read it in the Kitsap Sun. So that makes me double surprised. If we don't actually stand with each other in our job that some of us are elected to do, to represent those of us in the room, then how can you hope to stand with all the rest of us? If we can't stand together and you can't stand together, then how are we going to stand together collectively? I really don't think that another surprise like this should happen. And I'm sure you all are hoping that another surprise like that doesn't happen, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to find out that all of a sudden one person has made a decision on behalf of an entire elected body who we decided should be part and voice of our community. You have to work together. You can't be divided. Stand together so you can stand with us. We'll stand together so we can stand with you. Like, don't fight with each other. I mean, unproductively, right? I don't want to hear another gaps discussion like anyone else, but there are gaps and they do need to be discussed and they need to be addressed. And you're only going to do it if you do it together. Even if it means that you're going to get red in the face and you're going to cry a bunch. You're going to have to do it. I'm sorry. You're going to have to do it. And you're going to have to make sure that it doesn't show up in the Kitsap Sun before someone else finds out and I find out at 10 o'clock at night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if we have another speaker after this, we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll go to not a break, we'll go to Zoom, okay? And then we'll come back to the to the public in person. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joe Walter. And I plan to come in today to support our immigrant community through CARE and to amplify their message, calling on you for a statement about your continued commitment to equity and inclusion and protecting our immigrant neighbors. And then I read the paper and I'm terribly agitated. Mr. Mayor, I don't understand. I heard what you said tonight and I agree with the last speaker that we want to stand together. And I can't imagine anything that will be discovered with research that you're intending to do that would make you want to not go ahead with the hiring with the plan as it stands. We've tried for so long to get racial justice issues properly addressed in this community. And Mr. Mayor, you never opposed these efforts. You seem to be on the right side despite not being able to move things along as quickly as anyone wanted them to move along. We were that close, weren't we? We have an excellent candidate. We were right on the verge of moving forward, I thought. And why? Because of fear. Scared about losing federal funding. Exactly the president's plan, spreading fear, creating chaos. Your announcement absolutely plays into his plan. Don't be so afraid that you have us all moving backwards rather than forwards towards our own stated intentions. To say it very directly, if we're not there already, we are being driven down a path to a non-democratic future. Call it oligarchy, fascism, authoritarianism. We either go along or we resist. I need for my city to be a part of the resistance. Resisting acting on the fear that the president's threats trigger in you, Mr. Mayor, is what we need from you. And I heard what you said, and I'm still trying to imagine that there could be anything you would hear about money that would make us say, sorry, you know, we were only kidding to the community of people who are not white. Okay. We especially need this position, this job to begin in our community, because who can we go to when there are more issues coming up? Y'all don't have the capacity to address the requests that were made by CARE. The mayor doesn't have the capacity to do that. So the hired person would be that right person. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Okay, Dave, we're gonna go back to the public, but let's get our Zoom calls in. They've been online patiently waiting, I assume, although. Go ahead.
I have a point of information, just, is the yellow light not working on our dais or on the podium up there?
I
Okay.
think the bulb might be burned out because from our vantage point, we couldn't see the yellow light, but we definitely could see it turn the 30
The
seconds.
clock was working, but the lights were not. I just needed to make sure that folks knew that.
Thank you.
And Council President,
Yes,
would you make an announcement for our approved Zoom callers to raise their hand? If
Yes.
they still do want to comment?
please, the approved Zoom callers, and I believe we had 2 of them tonight. Do you want me to read their names for the record so they know who they are? Or actually, they know who they are. And then Dave, do you have the list? All right, so if you've been, if you contacted the city clerk or the city council's office and you received your approval, you know who you are. Please raise your hand. We do have the list of names. And so Dave will not be calling on you unless you have your hand raised and your name matches what we have recorded. So we have lots of people on the Zoom meeting. Okay, so if you would help us out, please raise your hand. And Dave, if you can announce who the first person is.
And Jack Brown.
Okay, I don't know if that was heard clearly, or I'm getting older, I can't hear those well either, so.
That would
Go
be
ahead. Go ahead.
Zan Jack Brown.
Yes. Are we hearing anything? So she should be elevated to panelist, so she should be able to speak. So go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can now. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, council. My name is Zan Jacob Brown. I live in Kitsap County. I want to thank you, Mayor Wheeler, and you, City Council members, for your past commitments to DEI. Mayor Wheeler, I deeply appreciate your statement on diversity that states that my focus is to honor diversity and different perspectives in our city while encouraging a culture that is safe, welcoming, and respectful of all residents. You and the city followed up on this commitment with your initiatives in 2022 to begin a thoughtful, community-involved process to add a full-time diversity, equity, and inclusion position. Given the city's progress toward becoming more welcoming and equitable, I was surprised and disheartened to learn that you, Mayor Wheeler, have halted all DEI activities in the city. At this moment, when our friends, neighbors, and family members who are recent immigrants are being threatened with detention, deportation, and separation from their families, we need to see courageous leadership from the city of Bremerton. As a rabbinic leader in the Kitsap Jewish community, myself and my community are deeply impacted to this day by the history of the Holocaust. It has shown us what happens when regional leaders try to appease a national leader's demands to stop protecting the most vulnerable among us. Small steps snowball into large-scale horrors. This is a time for courageous and careful review of the legality of the threats from Washington and to coordinate with other municipalities statewide. Will you be willing to make good on your commitment to, in your words, a culture that is safe, welcoming, and respectful of all residents, unquote, by releasing a statement of the City of Bremerton's ongoing commitment to equity and inclusion and to support the Keep Washington Working Act. Thank you. The Jewish community, together with people from all over the county, are counting on your leadership.
Okay, thank you. Who do we have up next, Dave?
Jocelyn?
Oh, is this
Yeah.
Jocelyn Snow?
I'm here.
Okay,
Jocelyn
go ahead.
Snow.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Jocelyn Snow. I'm a resident of Bremerton, and I just wanted to echo all of the other statements that are being made on behalf of the and all of our neighbors. But I also wanted to provide, I do Rock the Block and Bremerton Prayer Walk, and I usually come in to provide kind of an update on what is happening downtown, what is happening with our homeless population with respect to the anti-camping ordinance that went into effect prior to us having any viable solutions for individuals experiencing homelessness. And as the weather continues to get kind of out of control, we're seeing some significant issues. First, people are under considerable duress down there. There's just simply not enough resources for people. We've had individuals who start off with some hope going to detox and trying to get into other recoveries, and there's just not enough resources. And so they are just turned back to the streets. And it's a vicious cycle back and forth where the hope starts to get lost with each time that you're sent back to the streets. We have those suffering from significant medical conditions, physically, mentally. We have pregnant women on the streets that don't fall into categories for help, that are living in tents and hiding. And that to me is one of the biggest issues is these individuals who are super vulnerable are even more vulnerable because of the weather and because of the aggressive enforcement of this anti-camping ordinance on a select few group of people. We've got individuals with the inability to survive the elements right now, just the most basic of coverings. They're not able to have those on the streets, and they're told inappropriately told that they need to keep moving along. And there's nothing in the anti-camping ordinance that says you may not be on a street corner. It says that you may not pitch a tent on that street corner, but the police are using this and really making vulnerable people more vulnerable. I know that you guys are working on alternatives. I saw that article. I know that Joe Crane, in addition to a lot of you, are working on, and I'm so incredibly excited for those resources to come to fruition. And I love that our city is looking at a compassionate response to this issue. However, it's not now. We're not going to be able to get these resources for these individuals right now. It's going to take some time. And in that time, we've got people dying on the streets. We've got people
Thank you,
suffering
Ms.
more
Snell. I'm sorry,
significant.
Ms. Snell. Thank you. Okay, again, the 3 minutes, just trying to be consistent, so I apologize. Next update,
Debbie Haas.
okay, Ms. Haas, go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Debbie Hazy, and council members and mayor. I'm here to also uplift and speak on behalf of supporting the immigrant community and asking you to proactively address the threats. You're in this unique position to have a positive impact on so many human lives who are so scared right now, rightfully scared. You're in a position that can help these people live with a little less fear, maybe. So I'm just hoping that you please don't let that fear of fascism that's happening guide your decisions. And please don't play into the dehumanizing stuff that's happening at the federal level. And particularly, I'd like to ask to call on the city of Bremerton to release a statement, a timely statement affirming your commitment to equity and inclusion as you passed way back in 2019. You know, and as somebody else spoke, I think Hannah spoke about how other police departments like in Paulsbone, Muckleteel, and other places have issued statements. We ask you to follow that leadership and issue statements that and we ask that all the departments in the city of Bremerton are keenly aware and review that that Keep Washington Working Act. And so that all the sectors, you update your protocols, you train your staff so that you're prepared with legal rights and responsibilities if and probably when immigration enforcement agencies come over to your buildings, the community. But please have everybody up and running and up to speed on the Keep Washington Working Act. Of course, including the police department. And I think I just want to, the news about canceling DEI initiatives, people spoke to that already. It's not way beyond disappointing. It like falling to that fear. With all of what Bremerton's been through to try to move DEI forward is so disheartening. And so I think I leave you with a few questions, Mayor, but also City Council, as you are talking about this. Like, what are your real values? What are your values? What's truly important? And
Okay, thank you. Who do we have up next, Mike? One more?
I guess we have Claire Menard.
Go ahead, please.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you for having me here tonight. Yeah, my name is Claire Menard. I'm a resident of Kitsap County and I work in Bremerton. So first off, I want to say that I was pretty upset to read in the Kitsap Sun that in this very moment, when we need it the most, the city is considering ending its diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. I beg of you to center the humanity of the community members of Bremerton instead of prematurely caving to unlawful federal policies coming from the other side of the country. Center before finances. I beg of you to remember that you have the ability to protect local community members, families, and children. People who are scared constantly right now, living in fear, living in anxiety, and are afraid to leave the house. I want you to imagine what that feels like. Please do everything in your power to protect them, to do what you would hope someone would do if you were in their shoes, instead of allowing them to be further harmed. Please follow the Keep Washington Working Act, which is state law, and make sure all local police departments are following this law. Make statements, get them translated into Spanish, into Hmong, into Tagalog. Follow those statements and do what you can to appease people's fears. Let people know you'll do everything in your power to keep our community members safe from the onslaught of unconstitutional policies coming out of Washington, D.C. This is not the moment to hide or back down. We are seeing that in the next 4 years, it is highly likely our communities are going to be torn apart, and our immigrant, queer, Black, and Brown communities will be especially vulnerable. There's a potential that the future is going to devastate our communities. We can only get through this moment together by doing whatever we can to protect each other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike and Dave, can you confirm we have no other hands up that of people that were on the list? Is that true? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go back to the public that's in attendance. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay, that's fine. I didn't know where.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My name is Mary Lou. I stand here in opposition to all of the stuff that I've been hearing from the other people that have really well organized their little show. 70% of the United States of America voted for Donald Trump to close our borders, to stop fentanyl from coming into our country and killing our people. He's tried to do this, and he has asked ICE to go and collect the worst of the worst, the criminal elements that rape and kill children and steal, and they're brutal. And you want us to say we shouldn't cooperate with ICE to collect these people? You're putting your families in jeopardy. I'm sorry. I'm upset, very upset. And as far as DEI is concerned, it has been the biggest fiasco, causing more and more lawsuits for people to sue others because they're sensitively disturbed by somebody's using the wrong pronoun or treating them in unfair ways. All of us get treated unfairly at times, but we have to be big enough and grown up enough and adults to take it and fight back. They may be fighting back for the illegal immigrants. They don't know who they're fighting for. I'm fighting for Americans and the American public. I was here to talk about Judge Floyd because I'm very upset about what's going on with the city and Tracy Flood, not Floyd, Tracy Flood. She's costing the city money, wasted money that could go to better things. I say she should resign. She's doing a disservice to her fellow brown people. She's not going to be a very good hire if she has to go looking for another job. If she's suing the city, people will say, oh, she's a hot one. She's going to create problems. And there's an issue that I just defined as DEI causing problems. We're not promoting or hiring people because of the best and the brightest anymore. We're hiring people to fill quotas that make no sense. And I'm incensed at this group of people that are saying that that you have to stand together with them when 70% of the United States of America is saying we need to round up illegals that are creating crime.
Point of order, please. Excuse me. Point of order. Ms. Long has the floor. You get an additional 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. I kept my mouth as quiet as I could when they were talking about all of their sensitivity to these people. I wonder how many of these people are using illegals to hire at under state basic salaries to do businesses for them, or whatever it is that they're into. I don't know. But I'm very upset with what went on tonight. And I thank you for your time, sir.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to our next speaker, can we just have a pause for a second? I don't know about what our next speakers are going to say, but I sense obviously some tension in the room. I want to remind everyone that the First Amendment allows people, in this case, 3 minutes to speak. Okay? We hold that dear to our hearts. And I'm asking out of respect that you give the person that's speaking the opportunity to be heard. I'm not trying to infringe on your rights as far as the crowd clapping. I do ask that you be respectful and not disrupt the speaker that is speaking out of consideration. So again, I'm referring to the First Amendment. And although the council rule states that the speaker shall not engage in obscene, indecent, or libelous speech, they're pretty broad and subject to interpretation by the listener. If you got a sense that I was prepared for this meeting, you are correct. Using discretion to limit or cut off speech that you deem to be obscene or indecent, in a legal opinion, is likely to be a First Amendment violation. I do not care to do that tonight. I'm asking, people gave a certain viewpoint. If someone gives a and I didn't hear a lot of extraneous trying to interrupt them. I'm asking that you provide the same consideration for everyone. We treat everyone fairly. The next speaker has 3 minutes. I hope I made myself clear. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Council. My name is Lance Bird. I'm in District 6, and I was going to talk about Judge Flood, and I'll get to that. But initially, we had an election in this country, and a lot of minorities voted for Donald Trump and what he stood for. And they decided immigration was an issue, and they wanted it dealt with. We also decided in this nation, in a democracy, we all voted, we all got a chance, we all heard it, we got the results, that DEI was also a problem. We are now feeling the effects of what that is. And from my position, that's a good thing. Merit should be used, not your skin color, not some perceived injustice or whatever. It's what are you able to do? Are you qualified for the job? Which leads me into Tracy Flood. Clearly, a lot of people wanted to give her a shot because she happened to be Black. Great. She had her shot. She looked like she was qualified. She certainly had a lot of support. A lot of people on this council endorsed her. Do any of you regret it? Were there any warning signs that she might be a problem, that she would cause enormous amounts of problems and lawsuits that all of us who live in Bremerton are going to have to live with and who are probably going to have to pay for? Is there any regret from any of you about those endorsements? Do you still think she's a good candidate? Can you publicly state, will you publicly state that you made a mistake, that you will call for her resignation? Will you use your influence to get her to resign and spare this city? That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Alden Bradford. I'm going to be very brief. I just thought you'd be interested to know, according to my research, a couple hours in the library last week, one of the council members who voted back in 1987 to ban skateboards downtown was our very own Mary Lou Long. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. And I appreciate, I think that was perhaps a sense of humor, just kind of light. I appreciate that. So thank you. It's fine. But go ahead, Mr. Simpson.
Yeah, I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6. Just to edify you, Council President, the yellow light is working. So we've heard a lot of impassioned speech tonight, and thank you for eliciting on the First Amendment. That's the amendment that allows us to provide redress to our government for things that we don't like to see. That's why we have the folks on the groom side of the house with one opinion, and more power to them. I commend them for coming in and using their First Amendment right to put forward their values. That's wonderful. That's what our society is bound on. And discourse and speech is what makes our country great. It's what makes people want to come here. It's what makes people want to emigrate here. What makes all these different people from all over the world understand that this is the best place on the planet to be, even on a snow day like today. So this is why I ask you, Council President, to push forward with the rest of the council and bring back the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance reminds us that this is a republic. We elect you, our representatives, to represent us on this council, to speak our voice for us, and not to flavor it with something, and not to dilute it, not to change it, not to alter it, but to speak with our voice on the council and bring forward our views so that we are actually represented by our government that we pay for, that we support, that we want to have successful. Now, me, I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and push forward with the DEI. Go ahead, please do that. Unfortunately, it's going to fail. The idea that you're going to push forward something that enables the government to pick people based on the color of their skin or the box that they check, rather than the quality of their character, that's absolutely absolutely against what America stands for. We are a meritocracy. We want the best and the brightest, regardless of what they look like, what gender they are, who they love. We don't want those barriers there. We want the best. We want the smartest. We want the fastest. We want the greatest. But instead, DEI settles for mediocrity, and we see that with what happened with Judge Flood. I've gotten to meet her and talk with her. She's an interesting person, but even members of this council have disabused her in office, and so I have mixed feelings about that. I don't like seeing any of our judges or elected officials browbeat when they come up to this podium. And with that, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Roy Runyon, Bremerton. I find it ironic that folks are demonstrating, protesting, waving the flags of nations other than the United States, which is fine. I served in the military to defend their right to express their First Amendment right to assemble and free speech. I find it ironic that it's the blood of Americans who obtain that right and preserve that right. Getting on to Flood, we got off track. I have grievances with you, with the government. I have grievances with the mayor. I have grievances with that judge. Judge Flood was elected democratically, fairly in 2021, took office in 2022. Since then, what has happened in our municipal court? Let me give you a little list. Judge Flood caused an individual to be falsely imprisoned for 30 days because she failed to sign a release. Think about that. That happening in our country? Outrageous. Judge Flood caused an individual to be falsely arrested because she failed to quash a warrant. Judge Flood failed to sign protection orders in a timely manner. Judge Flood failed to sign restitution orders in a timely manner. Probably as a result of the unhappiness within the court, the fact that 19 court employees, not only the employees that she found when she entered office, but people she replaced them with, 19 of those people left, resigned from the court. You cannot maintain a functioning organization without qualified, knowledgeable people. Defense attorneys refused to actually represent clients before Flood, Judge Flood. This got so bad, there were formal complaints filed so that the Washington State Commission on Judicial Conduct issued its decision and order on January 17th, 2025, regarding Judge Flood's conduct. They found that she had violated the canons of judicial conduct. After 2 years, by the way, the obstruction that Judge Flood threw up, she tried to undermine the work of the CJC by going to the Supreme Court. The CJC, the commission, was not very sympathetic to that, let me tell you. So the CJC specifically censured Judge Flood, suspended her with pay immediately, and recommended to the Washington State Supreme Court that she be removed from office. Well, let's cut to the chase. Judge Flood, you need to resign. Not only that, you need to apologize to the people of Bremerton, and you need to drop your lawsuits against the city of Bremerton. Furthermore, Mayor Greg Wheeler is culpable. He endorsed Judge Flood prior to the election. He is culpable. And if you are elected in office, you use your title, you misuse your title to endorse this person, you are also culpable. This is what I want from Mayor Greg Wheeler. I want him to apologize to the people and resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Runyon. Anyone else for public recognition that hasn't spoken already? All right, seeing none, I'll turn to our city clerk for a public hearing item. Thank you.
Public hearing item 6A, ordinance number 5508 to correct legislative markup errors and ordinance number 5506. Our presenter tonight, Manager Garrett Jackson. He will be appearing virtually.
Go ahead, Mr. Jackson, when you're ready. So here we go. I think Mr. Jackson, is he ready?
Sorry, it's been a while and I was on mute.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Good evening. As discussed at the last study session in December, an ordinance was passed related to permit procedures in the zoning code, Title 20. And since that time, it's come to our attention that there were some clerical errors in the legislative markup of that ordinance. We're here tonight with an ordinance to correct those errors as shown in tonight's packet. And even though that ordinance is correcting some clerical errors, a public hearing is still required to make that change. So, oops. We have an ordinance in the packet describing what changes are required with that legislative markup. And a draft motion is also available in the packet as appears on the screen now also. And that's all that I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'll now open up the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to accept public comment. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item? As exciting as it may seem. Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. I go to the council for a motion. Anybody?
Move to adopt
No.
sorry. Move to pass ordinance number 5508 to correct clerical errors found in ordinance number 5506 related to BMC Title 20 permit procedures.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any discussion by anyone on this? Councilmember Markler?
Really quick question. How many person hours did it take to prepare for this public hearing?
Mr. Jackson, that was for you. If you want
It
to
was.
answer that.
We didn't track how many hours it took. I appreciate the help of our clerk, Angela Hoover, and our attorney's office in correcting the errors.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Chamberlain, any comments?
No comments.
All right, any other comments or questions from the rest of the council? Seeing none. Oh, by the way, Dave, if Councilmember Goodnow raises his hand, you need to let me know. I can't see him. Thank you. Seeing none, I'll call for the question.
Councilmember Fry,
Yes.
Coughlin,
Yes.
Robolowski,
Yes.
now,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Chamberlain,
Yes.
Younger.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Our next, let's see, this closes out public hearings. Next would be general business. We have reorganized general business. Our first item would be 7A, confirm appointment of Mike Miller to the Planning Commission. Our presenter is Mayor Wheeler.
Sorry to do this to you, Mayor Wheeler. This was normally, or was originally under consent agenda. However, one council member asked to bring it down, and per our council rules, we honor that request. Would you like to talk about the appointment of Mr. Miller to the Planning Commission, sir?
Absolutely. So we, our Department of Community Development did a thorough review of all the candidates and applicants, interviewed each one. And Mike Miller rose to the top. And so we are presenting Mike to you for your endorsement. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item? No, anybody on Zoom? All right. Seeing none, I'll go to the council for motion. Councilmember Fry,
I move to confirm appointment of Mike Miller to the Planning Commission.
do I have a second? Well, I'll second it. Okay, Councilmember Fry, any comments or questions?
I know Mr. Miller is in the audience tonight and want to thank you for suiting up and showing up in the snow. I'm also familiar with your work at Rice Fergus Miller, and I think that he would be a fabulous addition to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Councilmember Robolowski.
I read the resume that Mr. Miller had, and I actually called a couple of his references, and I'm sure he'd be a great person to be on our planning commission. But I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly. Mayor, you said that all of the people who had applied were interviewed? Did I may have misheard that.
Let me see if Andrea is online right now. Director Spencer, you can give some specifics on that.
So I'll do a mic check to make sure you can hear me.
Mhm.
Yep.
You can. So all the candidates who applied and were in city limits, we invited for an interview.
So that means they were all interviewed, or some people just?
There were some candidates who haven't showed for interview, and we continue to do interviews. There were some that were sick. We have 2 positions that are open right now. So Mr. Miller's been identified for one of the position vacancies. We did an interview yesterday, and there's one other candidate who wasn't able to appear for an interview because he was ill. So we will reach back out to them to do an interview.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I guess my only concern is that we have an influx of families that have moved to the city in the past 5-10 years. And I'm hopeful that the next person who's appointed to the Planning Commission represents those newer families that have moved here. So I guess that's my largest concern, but thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from this council? Councilmember Coughlin.
Thank you, Council President. Just since I wasn't present at the pre-briefing, coming straight back from Olympia to this meeting, a normal procedure is to have these come to study session first before being placed on consent agenda. I just wanted to find out the rationale why it was placed on consent agenda before us study session.
No worries. First of all, I authorized it. our planning director asked for permission to put it on. As you know, the fifth Wednesday we don't have a council meeting on the fifth Wednesday. And Ms. Spencer, would you like to elaborate? I believe we shared the email with all council members notifying. And if there's any error, it's me allowing it to happen. But given the applicant's qualifications and the process of the mayor doing his due diligence and selecting someone for appointment, seeing the quality of the candidate, I didn't think it would be an issue. But Ms. Spencer, could you perhaps refresh my understanding of the rationale for moving this forward?
You are correct, is that it was the fifth Wednesday month that presented challenges to us. So I sent an email to the council with the qualifications of the candidate to you via email. So you had the materials in advance so that you could review that and pose any questions to the mayor about his appointment. And you all are quite well aware of all the work that we're doing at the Planning Commission. So getting appointments done as quickly as we can was imperative. So that was the other pressure, is that we really need to move forward getting a more full planning commission. And that's why we've been doing interviews as quickly as we can as we get applicants.
Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Mochler.
Thanks, Council President. So first off, I have to apologize to the whole council because I've been being beaten over the head so much this month, these past couple of weeks with information, that I missed the part that Mr. Miller is retired. Mea culpa. But moving on, I have said before, and I'm going to continue saying, that I think our planning commission, which reviews the comprehensive plan, reviews the permitting, should better reflect the diversity that is Bremerton. I up with correct language, Council President. I think people who are of an age or who have students in Bremerton Public would be a very valuable addition to the Planning Commission, and that they would work to shape a Bremerton that reflects their reality. I absolutely no problem with Mr. Miller's qualifications. He's qualified up one side and down the other. I, at the same time, agree with Councilor Revelowski that we need to reflect the current population of Bremerton. And just to respond to Councilor Coughlin's concern, I too was wondering why there was a sudden rush to put this before council when there had been 2 vacancies through much of 2024 and I think 2023 as well. So that was a concern of mine. Thank you all for this opportunity, and I promise to read every word of every future application. I don't.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments from the council? All right, so my comment on here, and this is not to have a debate amongst my fellow council members, but you don't know who the other applicants are. Mayor Wheeler and I assume Ms. Spencer were involved in the application review process. They interviewed the applicants that desired to be interviewed. Mayor Wheeler made his selection. I find no fault. I think the candidate that's up is superbly qualified. There should be, and I don't believe there is any debate about that. And to me, that is the purpose of the council, to make sure they're living within the city in this case, that they're qualified to do the job. And obviously that criteria has been met. With that, I call for the question.
Councilmember Coughlin,
Yes.
Revelowski,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Chamberlain,
Yes.
Fry,
Yes.
Younger.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
And then hold on for congratulations, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Thank you very much for volunteering for your service.
Do you want to say anything?
All right. We'll move on to the next. I'm sorry, did we have a?
At what point in time do we invite them to come and introduce themselves?
You know, that goes, I hate to put people on the spot. Ms. Miller, would you like to come up and talk about the planning commission and what you anticipate working on? Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Do I only have 3 minutes? First of all, I'm sorry I didn't come up during the public comment for this particular item. It would have given you a chance to ask me questions, and I'd give you that chance right now. My name's Mike Miller. I'm in District 6. I live on Madrona Point. I've been a resident of Bremerton for over 25 years, so I don't qualify for your 5 to year or less criteria. I am retired. I've had 45 years of experience in architecture and planning, master planning large projects. Most of my projects have been in areas not in Kitsap County. The firm that I helped establish, Rice Fergus Miller, across the street, is near and dear to me, but I no longer have financial interest or any other type of management interest in that firm, other than I like to see it succeed. Relative to the Planning Commission, I believe my experience brings, my professional experience and my experience in Bremerton brings a lot of insight, and my professional experience, I think, brings strategy relative to the 2024 comp plan. I've read most of it. I've made notes to some parts that I think are interesting, and maybe some things that might need to be slightly adjusted. I understand how the zoning code will evolve out of that. I've read the Puget Sound Regional Council reports. I've read the reports on missing middle income or missing middle housing. I'm a housing advocate. I'm a volunteer. I'm on the board of St. Vincent de Paul, and I'm helping them through their process of trying to develop housing for those who are unsheltered. I was on the board of Harrison Medical Center, and I was also on the foundation for Harrison Medical Center for 14 years, helping raise money for that wonderful institution. I help Martha and Mary because my experience in architecture dealt mostly with healthcare and specifically with senior living and people with frailties. So I don't know. I want to get back to the city. The city is near and dear to me. I grew up in Aberdeen. I've been a lifelong Washingtonian. I also believe in DEI, and our firm believes in DEI. Unfortunately, the people that are not interested in DEI left after they said theirs, so I thought I would just add that. I'm happy to take any kind of questions that you might have. You can re-vote if you'd like.
We won't revote, and this is a little unusual. It wasn't necessarily going to be a question and answer. I'm going to ask the council, first of all, thank you, Mr. Miller, again, for, in this case, coming up to the podium and telling us more about yourself.
I will make a couple of other comments there.
Sure.
I have 2 children who graduated from Bremerton High School. My son he lives in Missoula, Montana with his family. He's a physician. My daughter is in Portland with her family. She actually authored most of the housing studies for Bremerton and Kitsap County for a company called Econ Northwest. Her name is Madeline Miller, Madeline Barron at that time. She interviewed for and won that work for her company down in Portland. So she works for housing and for those who are less fortunate. Right now, I'm working for housing and for those who are less fortunate. My son gives his life over to a hospital for those who are in need and maybe less fortunate. You know, it's a cultural thing in our family. So, you know, this is just another step in that journey for me, and I'm happy to do it.
Well, we're glad to hear that. We're glad to have you on board, and it sounds like you're going to hit the ground running, Mr. Miller. So thank you very
I
much.
think we probably need to, right, Andrea?
Thanks again, Mr. Miller. Okay, Ms. Hoover, next item, please.
Item 7B, supplemental agreement number 4 with HDR Engineering, Inc. for the Naval Avenue 1st Street to 15th Street pedestrian and bicycle enhancements project. Our presenter is Engineering Project Manager Vicki Grover. I believe she's virtual.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Grover, when you are ready.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
And then I will share my screen. Oh, I guess it's been a while since I've done this too. Okay, can you see my first slide?
Yes.
Thank you. So good evening, City Council and members of the public tonight. My name is Vicki Grover and I'm the project manager for the Naval Avenue 1st to 15th Street Bike and Pedestrian Enhancements Project. So I'm here tonight to request council approval of contract modification number 4, which begins the right-of-way phase for the Naval Avenue project, and it's an extension of the consulting contract we have with HDR. The contract cost is $1,460,952. And some of the tasks included for our right-of-way acquisition and our title reports, right of entry agreements. They help us with the negotiation process with property owners. We do appraisals. We have surveys done. We offer just compensation. We negotiate for these parcel acquisitions for both the temporary and the permanent. And relocation services are also provided as part of the Uniform Relocation Act. And then in the end, we have the right-of-way certified that gets approved by WashDOT. I know that we've talked about this before. That's really all I have for this evening. And so I will turn it over to you guys for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item? No? We've got someone on Zoom. All right, let's get it rolling. Go ahead. Who do we have?
Boilermaker 290.
Okay, we won't call on tag names, so go ahead, sir. Or that's a terrible assumption. Go ahead. I'm going to call on the tag name. Go ahead, please.
My apologies. It's just the account that normally signs into it. My name is Mark Layton from the Bremerton Metal Trades Council. I also happen to be the president of Boilermakers 290, clearly. And we want to speak out against the revision to 6th Street. As part of the Bremerton Metal Trades Council and representing about 12,000 of Puget Sound Shipyard's workers, we believe it would unduly interfere with us getting to and from work, reducing the lane sizes during our departures and arrivals. Quite frankly, given the amount of bus stops along that lane and interference with bicycle traffic along that lane and commuters turning left, or excuse me, right to go to the shipyard, it's probably not a good idea in the first
I gotta
place.
interrupt for one moment. You said 6th Street. This is for the Naval Avenue.
I meant Naval.
Okay,
excuse me.
Go ahead then.
Same situation, different street.
No worries.
Those revisions we don't think are a good idea for traffic in the mornings, interactions with bicycles who are basically unarmored participants in the daily commute, along with a bunch of naval personnel to create nicely the driving habits from all over the United States, turning into our gates, along with the normal commute for workers in the area. Think that we support bicycle transit. I think it's a great idea. Possibly revisions to 4th or 5th in singular directions to get them off of the main routes, but certainly not there. We feel it's a very bad idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else? Okay, so before we call on the next person, this is for the supplementary agreement with HDR Engineering. It's for a right-of-way contract. I've informed council at the 5 o'clock session that for the public, if it's about Naval Avenue, we're going to listen to yes. So with that in mind, go ahead and next caller.
Jessica Torres Riley.
Go ahead, please.
Hi there. I just wanted to respond since the last comment happened. I am a resident of 5th Street. I live just off of Naval Avenue. I very much look forward to this revision and hope that the contract that you're signing is able to be successful and on time and on budget so that we get these changes. I have a daughter who will be going to Naval Elementary School. I very much plan to walk down Naval Ave and take my daughter to that elementary school one day. And I'd love a safe street to do that on. Right now, when I walk my dog down that street, he usually cowers in fear from cars and from the traffic that goes by because people, just don't respect it as being a part of a neighborhood, which it very much is. So thank you for your work on this, and I look forward to engaging as it continues.
Okay, thank you. Our next caller, please.
Christopher Lux.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Christopher Lux. I own a home on Burwell Street and a property at the corner of Burwell and Naval. Since this project was announced, I was very supportive and continue to be very supportive of improving pedestrian and bicycle access. I'm a regular bicycle commuter to work. I tried to reach out to the transportation department, primarily Chris Demit. From the very first meeting, I went to every single meeting, announced or otherwise, related to this project, and have been very frustrated with not feeling like there has been adequate review of community input. My property is the one that will have the largest right-of-way taken from it. And we have offered multiple things to try to allow for maps and bike repair stations and other amenities that would increase and improve this process, and have been largely ignored in that process along the way. So just want to encourage the divisions to make sure that they listen to the community and the stakeholders throughout the process, and don't just give updates at different percentiles of completion to tell us what they're going to do. Please listen to what the community needs and would like to offer in support.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else, Mike? I'll go to our public again, just to confirm. Anyone else want to talk about this item? Seeing none, I'll turn to the council for a motion. Well,
I'll make the motion.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Good. Now, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get everything situated here. Move to approve supplemental agreement number 4 with HDR Engineering Incorporated for the Naval Avenue 1st Street through 15th Street pedestrian and bicycle enhancement project, and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute the agreement with substantially the same terms and conditions as presented.
Do I have a second? Well, once again, I'll do the second. Go ahead. All right, now we have a motion and a second. We'll call for discussion. Councilmember Goodnow, any comments?
I don't have any new comments. I've appreciated all the input we've got, and definitely concerned if there's even an appearance that we're not taking input along the way. So I think that's a place for us to work. But like my neighbor mentioned a moment ago, the folks that live around here are excited for this. It is making things better. It is reclaiming some of this traffic or some of the street that's been expanded for traffic that's not needed anymore, and we're giving the space back to pedestrians and cyclists. I've talked to a bunch of people about ways to improve cycling, the barriers and things like that. But anyways, I think this is great progress for bicycle and pedestrians. And is it perfect? No. Anyways, I support this project for what it's going to do, and I, will also work to make sure we do better in the future. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions from the council? Councilman Rybelowski.
Yeah, this vote is just for the purchase of right of way. So I'm going to move forward on this. It's a 2-year process for them to purchase the right of way. We don't have any money yet to build it. We don't have a contract to build it. So in 2 years or 3 years, whatever, maybe there'll be some modifications. I don't know. But for tonight, I'm going to vote to let them move forward on right of way acquisition.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Coughlin.
Thank you, Council President. Ms. Grover, just to check, as we talked about, there's nothing in this contract for right-of-way acquisition that endorses a particular design, of course, except for the fact that it would need to fit within the acquired right-of-way.
So we use the 90% design to determine the right-of-way that is needed. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think I'll just restate that once the right-of-way is acquired, we cannot proceed with a design that exceeds that right-of-way, but a design that is within it.
That's correct.
Well, thank you, Ms. Grover. And thank you for all your work on this project and for city staff's hard work. It was disheartening to see the large number of people surprised by this project and have felt not having proper input. And there's one person whose job that is on communication and input, and that's the mayor. And it was disheartening to see that when council tried to address those concerns, the mayor instructed staff not to try and find a compromise with council. And it put that project in jeopardy. So to sum up, this is a joint Navy City project. It was in the Joint Compatibility Transportation Plan that the Navy signed off on. And as we said, this is going to improve the street. So despite my disappointment on this right-of-way acquisition, I don't want to see this project fail. I will not be responsible for this project failing. And so I look forward to moving forward with the right-of-way, but continuing discussions on the rest of the project.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Chamberlain and then Fry.
I just want to say, I echo concerns about the outreach. I think it's definitely hard to do all of that, but what I do know is that the outreach began during COVID, and that I believe it was the first time that the city was able to coordinate outreach to the community via Zoom, and so that's kind of impressive. That was the first time they were able to do that, and they got it together. It's just to get a project like this in place, and I think the comment I made at study session is how people sometimes have a little bit of envy about Lebo Boulevard and the wonderful sidewalks that it has, the cutouts for parking, and there's even a bike, lane in that road. And so we're going to get a little bit of that on Naval Avenue, and I'm looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. So thanks for all your hard work, Public Works.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Fry.
I too want to thank staff. So often we mix up the terms administration and staff, and having risen through grassroots work and all the way from a volunteer up to a CEO of a nonprofit, I really appreciate the work of staff. They're doing the hard work. They're in the trenches, and so I'm going to try to reserve any judgments that I have, deservedly so, for the mayor and the administration. I'm quite frankly appalled by the process, the end of which I believe, from my perception, and I sit on the Public Safety Committee, the process included retaliation, bullying, and trying to shut the council down. I don't respond well to that type of behavior. And for that reason, I'm going to be voting no, not to stop the project, but because my integrity makes it necessary for me to call them on what happened. And I'll be speaking more about that in my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mochler.
Thanks, Council President. So I'm echoing what other councilors have said, which is the right-of-way acquisition, which will take place over the next couple of years, is going to define the frame. What we paint inside that frame can change in the future. I think that the outreach to council and that the outreach to the community was lacking. And I hope that council will have time during our retreat on Saturday to consider drafting an outreach policy that would define how we reach out. For example, the stakeholders advisory group for this contains 0 community members or 0 members of the community who were identified as such. There were consultants, staff member, city staff members, school district, Kids Up Transit, and a few others. There was one person who lives in District 7 representing West Sound Cycling Club. So this, I think we should create a policy that requires outreach to the community and then do the next thing. I'm going to be voting yes on this, even though I quite understand Councillor Fry's outrage at outrage at the relationship, the current relationship between the administration and the council, the disrespect. So, but I'm going to vote yes. So ready to do that.
Any more questions or comments from the council? Call for the question.
Councilmember Rebelowski,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Chamberlain,
Yes.
Fry,
No.
Coughlin,
Yes.
Younger.
Yes.
We have 6 yeses and 1 no. Motion carries. This concludes general business.
Thank you. I was waiting for the cue. So next, we're going to turn to council reports. This is an opportunity for council members to provide an update on any issues or events taking place in their district, announce any events they've recently attended or plan to attend, or speak on any other city-related topic. Since this is the first council meeting of the month, we will start with Councilmember Chamberlain. Go ahead, please.
Yes, this is the first time in over a year I've been able to speak first. So I'm pretty excited because I got some to say. No, but first I want to just throw up some slides. I think I've got a couple of pictures. Were the pictures first or okay. Well, I was going to save that for last, but that's okay. We've got and I sent pictures. Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully they might not have come through and that's okay.
So they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but please don't take that
I'll
later.
be saying 1,000 words about the pictures. What we're going to talk about right now is Stephenson Canyon. Our new Parks Director, Tim Barker, is going to join us. We're going to have a little discussion about Stephenson Canyon, maybe plan a neighborhood walk through. Hopefully, I'm going to go on a little walk next Monday with one of our staff persons through Stephenson Canyon, who she's probably tuned in right now. And we'll go check it out for you in advance. Director Barker, let you know if there's any improvements need to be made. But also it'll be a nice idea to get folks signed up just to kind of start to get more acquainted with the area. The more people that walk through the trails, the better it is for the trails, the more it breaks down the English ivy and all the stuff. And we'd like to also maybe get some folks who are interested in getting rid of some of that English ivy because it's kind of taken over. Snacks and coffee provided at, I don't know, a local place at 700A Lebo Boulevard. That happens to be in District 2, but that's okay. It's close enough to District 1. So you should just come and be a part of on February 18th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The pictures that I was going to show you were bike lanes I'll send them to you guys later, just some bike lane examples from when I was traveling, and they're actually pretty interesting. It was one of them was a two-way bike lane painted onto a like a 12-foot sidewalk, 10 to 12-foot sidewalk. The other one was a two-way bike lane that had the little bumps in the actual roadway. And I just thought it was a really interesting example of a two-way bike lanes. We're talking about bike lanes lately. So I just want to just thank folks that came out today and spoke. I remember being with you on the other side, speaking at the podium for to try to pass the Welcoming City resolution. The only other person that was up here was Councilor Younger, who happened to be council president at the time, I think. Yes, he was. And here we are, full circle again. So I just want to affirm my commitment and dedication to all the things that that some of our folks said regarding support for our immigrants, support for folks who are vulnerable. People who talk against DEI, they have no idea what DEI even is. Do they not realize that it's not just about race, it's also about ableism, it's also about classism, it's also about the intersectionality between all the things, and people who are vulnerable, who don't have a voice, who don't have a place, who don't have a seat at the table, who don't know how to pull up sometimes their seat at the table because they're too afraid to be a part of. So I want to thank you for speaking out against this. I know that we're in a pause situation right now. More will be revealed. I'm hoping that this pause is not one of those things that where it just kind of disappears, and that we are going to revisit this, and we are going to continue our commitment at an administrative level to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have a couple of constituents that I want to thank for writing in about issues. We have Kathleen Sheets, one of my constituents, who also wanted to wanted to throw support for DEI. And then also I got a chance to talk to a couple of residents today, and they were just so sweet. They've been residents of District 1 for 27 years, which is actually before it was District 1, but it was county when they first moved into their house over there off of Pine Road. And they wanted to, they said they've been contacting whoever for the past 27 years about people who speed on Pine Road, and they had a request for speed bumps. And I just would like us to continue to pay attention to Pine Road. That's all I have to say for my report. Thank you to everybody that came out, even folks that said stuff I didn't like to hear, because you just reaffirm my commitment to the service that I give to my citizens in Bremerton. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn to Councilmember Fry, just a reminder, I don't think you went over time, but so the public has 3 minutes, council member gets an extra 2 bonus. And so I don't know if it's going to be long for any of the other ones, but I'm starting the clock. Go ahead.
Did I take up
Councilmember
too much
Fry.
space?
No, I don't
Sorry.
believe so. I think you were good. Go ahead, please.
He's just starting the clock on me. Let's get my slides up there, please, Dave. I'm actually going to start out with like good news, smiling and everything. Look at this. Yeah. Okay, next slide. I was able to go to the open house, community open house for the new all the school work that's going to be done because of the bond. The mayor was there, Director Barker was there, and it was great. We started getting really excited. That's Arminjar, of course, in District 1. Didn't realize really how close it is. Maybe we could build a tunnel underneath or overpass or something for the kids to go over to this beautiful new community campus that we'll have over at View Ridge. They have determined they're going to rebuild the school on the old track there. So it's even closer to the gym. It's closer to the Boys and Girls Club. And Nick and Ty will be very happy to hear. I think that this really bodes well for our multimodal trail that's planned behind there. And Director Barker, you'll see my little urban forest there that maybe we could scope out some parkland, since we have a park desert in that area of Bremerton. So I'm excited about this. I think the kids are going to be excited. They're going to watch their new school being built as they go to school every day. And I'm jazzed. I'm going to go down and watch it being built too. Performing Arts Campus, the whole shebang. So good work, Bremerton School District, and can't wait to support it with all I have to give. Let's go forward. Next slide. This tells you a little bit more about the particular site for View Ridge. And all of this is up on the Bremerton School District website as of today. Just go to the bond link and it'll take you to these pictures so we can start getting excited. All right, next slide, please. I have to remind myself sometimes you'll hear council talk a lot about staying in our own lanes. I used to be a CEO and I had a board of directors, so that's really clear to me. And in fact, when I first came onto council, the mayor was relieved because, you know, I have CEO experience and he thought anyway that I'd stay in my lane. And I really do try. It's when things are happening in the other lane that impact the work in my lane that I'm going to speak out. And that's what I want to speak out to about tonight. This was a very personal experience for me. It was at our last meeting where I was publicly and personally attacked for things that I had said at a council meeting because I had used the term staff instead of the mayor and administration. I've learned my lesson with that. This was after I had already apologized to staff at an earlier meeting. I was blindsided by this. I was even tone policed. It was suggested that I should moderate my tone. My tone hasn't been moderated for many years. And I make you a promise, it never will be. I find this sexist. I find it bullying. It is certainly not in the best interest of a healthy relationship between the city council and the mayor. There are ways in which you do this. Mine is through the council president, staff, or the administration is through the mayor. And that is not what happened. I was subjected to an attack by a staff person. I hope that doesn't happen again. Again, I believe it was sexist. Some people think that all my years with the YWCA may be especially too sensitive to sexism. I consider myself a matter expert, and many others do too. So let's stop this. Let's stop this. I'll certainly do my part. And as a last comment, I want to remind council, no one interrupted that. No one, including our council president. That was wrong. That was wrong. My predecessor here on this dais alleged sexism when she resigned from council 3 years ago. You can imagine how disappointed I am that the DEI program has been put on hold. We certainly need it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Coughlin.
Thank you, Council President. And before we go to my slides, I actually only have one slide tonight, but I want to thank everybody who came out to speak tonight, and especially those of you who have stayed to the end here. Part of the purpose of a council report is to report on what's going on in your district. And it has been 2 weeks since this council last met. As Council President Younger said earlier, we didn't have a meeting last Wednesday due to the 5th Wednesday of the month. So it's been 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, we have seen a lot of change coming from the national level. And what I hear and see talking to folks in my district is a lot of fear. And I see, I've talked to store owners who are afraid prices may be changing on them suddenly. I'm not sure if they're going to make it. I've gone to meetings for LGBTQ people, especially youth who are terrified. We mentioned we've heard from minorities and immigrants in our society who are afraid, and people are afraid of losing their jobs. And I say all that as somebody whose husband is a federal employee at the shipyard, and my son's mother is a Cuban immigrant. And so in these times from federal uncertainty and chaos, I think what folks look to is they look for stability at our state level, our county level, and especially our city level, because that is what is closest to them. And so it is more important than ever in these times that we have stability and clear communication at our city level. And that is my ask going forward, that there are no more announcements by newspaper and that we get a clear line of communication between mayor and council. In response to some of the other comments, I am very supportive of the resolution council passed in 2019, 3316. And I'll say out loud, if there's, for purposes of quorum, 2 or less council members who are willing to stick around after tonight's meeting, including maybe council president, to discuss whether we would like to issue a letter affirming that resolution or yet another resolution. I would be happy to work on that to bring back to next study session, and hopefully get it passed on the following council meeting. With that said, I'll go to my one slide, which if you're looking at what you can do locally to help out in these times, I'm really happy to see a volunteer summit hosted by the Downtown Bremerton Association and the Roxy Theater. That is Sunday, February 23rd, 1 to 3. And so if you're looking how to get involved locally, how to make your city a better place, please come and attend that. And just thanks for all the heart we have in this city. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember and Vice President Revelowski, please.
Thank you. So I'm very disappointed that the people who spoke out against diversity, inclusion, equity left without hearing any response, because I'd like to know, what about diversity they don't like, or what about equality they don't like, or what about inclusion they don't like? Because I'm sick to my stomach reading things on social media. I try to have a lot of Facebook friends of different political persuasions, and when I read some of the things that they're saying, it's just awful. It's like people don't understand. Veterans preference is part of, when we hire, we have veterans preference, right? That's part of DEI. Would they like us to get rid of that? It's just mind-boggling. And I think we're gonna go through a very difficult process for a while, because that's what the federal level wants us to be, in chaos. And so let's calm down the chaoticness. And I agree, and I would like to work with Councilmember Coughlin on that so we can get that reaffirmation. I've had the Seattle Times call me and ask me how I was going to vote. And I said, there's nothing to vote on. Nothing's been presented to council. We found out about it when we read the article in the Kitsap Sun today. So it's not like we're not working together. We just don't know. We found out when you found out. So, I mean, we heard rumors, but I'm on the finance committee, and it was brought to us that, oh, these things are happening, but nothing's been clarified yet. And then each day we would get a little bit more clarification. So until things are really clear, I think a pause might be needed on the hiring of one specific person, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to change all of our policies and not be kind and opening to give other people opportunities. And I think everybody on the council, I don't speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sure everybody feels pretty close to the same way. And then on another note, I had coffee with our chief of police last week, and one thing we did discuss was ICE. And he said, well, of course I'm gonna follow the state law. He goes, we have too much work to do anyway. We're not gonna go out and try to help ICE arrest people. We only do what's in our lane, and that's not in their lane. So I hope he can just send out a letter again to the public and get it translated into at least a few languages so people in the community aren't so worried. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll turn to Councilmember Good now. Mike, you out there?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, again, thank you to everybody who came in or called in to speak. Again, it was great to hear from neighbors and folks I've volunteered with on committees and things like that. You know, this I had a really tough day yesterday. Some of this is really weighs on us, and you know, this sort of the DEI term. Again, I don't know how many people even know what it stands for. They just know they're against it, you know, and it's a little dog whistle, right? It's this little like short bit they can use to drive a wedge between people, and it's just so ironic that this is literally the thing that's supposed to help bring people together. So maybe it is the biggest threat that they see, is something that's trying to bring people together. You know, I think pausing where we're at on this is the right thing to do, to catch our breath, right? We do this a lot, when in the process of things ourselves on council. I also know that I've had interviews with newspapers that don't exactly espouse the intent I had. I don't know if that's the case or not in this, but I have been involved in the DEI work that the city is trying to do since the beginning, since advocating for REACT. You know, I have no reason to doubt the values of the folks that I have the pleasure to serve with. And I just want the community to know that, you know, whether we start the DEI, not whether we maybe rebrand it, you know, this is a tactic that the federal administration is using to create this chaos and this divide. So we can have a tactic. Pausing right now is a tactic. We can have a tactic too. Maybe we rebrand it, maybe we do it, but we can make sure that it still serves the values that we want. So during this pause, we'll figure that out. Oh, I just do want to support Jeff and Jane. I don't know if you guys know, I'm leaving town early in the morning, but I fully support us getting a statement out, you know, sooner than later. I also think that to me, the first priority is some sort of statement to the immigrant community. And then I think that's of the utmost importance. And then, you know, then kind of working on how we move forward with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think that's pretty much it. Again, so many folks already have said great things, and the community said good things. And you know, when I remember when I was running for council, maybe a little naive, and somebody said to me like, well, like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, well, I'm just planning to show up and make decisions for this city with my values. And if you feel aligned enough with my values, that's it. And it's tough sometimes. You know, one other thing I wanted to say is I've done a lot of advocacy work with marriage equality and the military ban, and you know, I feel like this is nothing new. Like, they've been coming for people since the beginning of time, and we just have to be resilient. It totally sucks, and it's wearing me down. Actually, what I'm attending this weekend is a conference of Pride organizers. I'm looking forward to looking forward to sort of recharging with some folks. I don't know how I'm doing on time. I'm not paying attention at all. But I am excited because I'm going to get to see Stacey Abrams speak. So anyways, I'll wrap up and thanks. I can see your faces, all of you. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so for the record, I'm not as concerned about violating your First Amendment rights, i.e. by giving one council member more time than the other, than I am the public. I take the public mission very seriously. Council members get a little more latitude, but I do ask that you monitor, because obviously I'm not competent enough to track 5 minutes. So with that, Councilmember Mockler. Self-policing, always a good idea.
Thank you. Can I have the first slide, please? Next slide, please. So update to the District 6 Town Hall on February 10th. You're on the mailing list, and it's the best mailing list in town. You already know that I am asking constituents, what are your top 3 priorities for council in 2025, and asking people to email them. We will also be discussing them. Update that just happened yesterday. Joe Crane of the Kitsap County Affordable Housing Consortium. There we go. Got the whole thing. Will be giving us an update on the hybrid shelter, which I'm sure approved in January of 2024. That's it for slides. Okay, so I thank everyone who spoke up on the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion. As a woman, this is very dear to me. As the grandchild of immigrants, this is very dear to me. As the great grandniece of Jacob Reese, and pretty committed to justice, I very much hope that whatever we call it, we have actual diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that the council can work with the mayor to have that initiative come into being. I look forward to discussing this at the February 12th study session. I'm sorry. Just to respond to Martitha May's comment, I almost 2 hours ago, I sent an email to the council reminding us that we do need a Spanish translation of the Bremerton Police Department, which is they will comply with ICE for a specific criminal warrant, but they're not out there looking, as Councilor Revlowski said, they're not out there looking for more work. So, and if anyone has further input along those lines, I think we should make sure that we are reaffirming to the community in every possible way that we we want the big tent. We want everybody under the tent, even if they are like spouting views with which some of us may personally disagree. I really like the council president's commitment to the First Amendment. He's just, even though it's making the meetings run long, I think it's a great commitment, and I thank you, Councilor Younger. That's pretty much it. I hope you guys are all staying warm and dry. Please make sure that everybody knows that you can get on any Kitsap Transit bus and get to a shelter in Port Orchard or Silverdale. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for my report, I'll just wrap up. I told the council at 5 o'clock, I saw the letters coming in, and I knew this would have stirred quite a bit of public comment, and from both sides. All right, I was correct. I was prepared for it. And like anything, if you know me, Ms. May, you know me, you've been attending the council. You remember when the sanctuary city thing, and then you remember 2 years later when I took the opportunity and I wrote the very resolution that you're all citing. So as usual, I'm one of the guys that likes to sit and mull over things and figure out the right course of action, looking at attorney opinions and all this stuff. But at the same point, I serve at the direction of the council. So if they stir me one way, we'll go that direction and we'll see what we can do. It's also in the best interest of the city as a whole. You know, that's the way I'm going to approach it, council. So we'll see what happens. Okay, that's pretty vague, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the way I operate. I don't rush to, you guys know that. You know that. Okay. Next, before I adjourn the meeting, I'll let you know I'm not. We're going to go to executive session. Council will now meet for 5 minutes. We're going to meet back there to discuss pending litigation as allowed under RCW 42.30.110 parentheses 1 parentheses I. Please note no actions anticipated. Again, we're going to meet back there for 5 minutes and I'll come back here to adjourn the meeting. So with that, we'll go back there.